All right, we've just had a delivery, so I've never actually done this, but we're going vlog style to go and have a look at it. So let's see. Let me set it up, hang on. Here's that big boy. Don't know if you can read this, but it says 10-inch professional cabinet saw, because I'm a professional. I don't know how I'm gonna move this because I think it's like 200 kilos. But we got ourselves a saw stop to replace our little DeWalt contractor saw. So it's pretty exciting. And you step in the professional furniture making direction. So yeah, we'll get it set up and show you around. All right, so that's everything out of the box except for this. I think we'll set up the wheelbase before we stand this up so we can stand it directly onto the wheelbase and then we can roll it around. So you roll that onto the styrofoam and then stand it up. Nice. That's what you need for. So that's sliding. Yeah, so I might get Imogen to foot this and then foot this and take her foot out.
Or crush her leg.
Broken leg. We just need you to foot this here.
To stop it from rolling.
And then also possibly foot that as well while we just tilt it up, but then you're going to have to pull your leg out before we drop it.
I don't think she'll need to put
Ready.
You ready? 3, 2, 1. Oi. Here it goes. Here it goes. Here it goes. It's alright, you can hop out.
Let go. This will be one of the few times you see your brother with a stiffy.
That's on camera too. Look at that. Easy peasy.
Make sure you play that bit.
Well, I hope that got.
Huh?
I hope that this caught that. All right, so 2 weeks later and we finally got it all set up. The reason it took 2 weeks was because I had it all set up on the first day, went to plug it in, realized it needs 15 amp power, so I had to get a new power point put in by a mate. And I was also busy with work, so it kind of worked out well. So 2 weeks later, we have our saw in place. Now, we have a few problems. First problem is this workbench. So this was one of the first things that I ever made when I first started woodworking. So like over this quarantine sort of period, I've been getting into woodworking, and I was using this bench, which is like a table tennis table. Like the legs of it's sturdy, it bends. It's just like, I don't know if you can see it from there, but yeah, it's not very good. So I decided that I would make my own new workbench, and this is it. And I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm going here, and then also under the saw here, but it fits the saw perfectly. And I char grilled it with this thing. And I reckon it looks sick. So yeah, just thought I'd share that with you. It served me well, but it's not going to work as an outfeed table for this because it's too high. It also houses my old saw, and I don't need that anymore. So it's a bit of a waste of space. And as you can see, space is a pretty hot commodity in this workshop. So what are we gonna do? So this workbench here, I made more recently than this workbench here. Now, this one doesn't get much use because it kind of sits against this wall the whole time. However, it is far more functional than this one. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna swap this one with this one, and then we're gonna make this one bigger. So why isn't this one functional? It's really good as a workbench. It's really good for this saw, but I've found that I don't use these drawers nearly enough. One thing as well is they don't come out past here, so all of the stuff at the back here doesn't really get used. Under here, it's just heavy storage for stuff that I don't actually use. This was supposed to be like glue storage. Guess what? There's no glue here. This was saw blade storage, because it's directly under the saw, it gets full of dust, and because it gets full of dust, the drawer slides don't work. And then this side over here only stores the planer. And because it's sort of in and under, getting it out hurts your back. And then lastly, I've had this thing for 2 years and this is where it's lived, right at the end of my miter station. So if I want to cut anything more than 2100, I have to move this thing. So this needs a home, the planer needs a home, and then we just need more functional drawers. Now don't worry, that's not being thrown out. My parents just bought a farm, so that's gonna go down there and my dad's gonna use it. Now, although this workbench is far more functional, it's still not perfect. So then first step here is we're gonna make this workbench workbenchable. We're gonna cut it down. It needs to be 23mm shorter, so we're gonna cut it down to make it 23mm shorter. And then we can use this as our outfeed table for the rest of the project. If you want a reason why I use form ply for any sort of workshop construction now, this is why. This is just dried glue. Would highly recommend. It's very good. You don't need to sand it, you don't need to stain it, you don't need to oil it. It just comes with the film face on it and it scrapes off really easily. Perfect for the workshop. All right, so this is the first official time that I'm using the saw to cut something. I've turned it on before, but I haven't actually cut anything, so wish me luck. All right, so trimming these down has probably made these a bit too skinny here, so they lose a bit of their rigidity. They're quite flexible compared to the original thickness. So I think what we'll do is we'll just remake these from scratch. So we'll get into that. We're also going to give this hooded thing a bit of a crack to see how efficient it is. I had this on my other saw, but I never really liked using it because it got in the way of the blade and you couldn't see what was going on there. So I prefer actually looking at the blade, seeing what's going on. So we'll just see if it makes much of a difference. Having no workbench and nothing to clamp to make this made me really grateful that I do have a workbench. But we've managed to make this flush with the saw, which is great. So now we can get onto the other side. All right, so we've got our cut list here, we've got our plywood over there, we've got our saw here. We're just gonna cut that plywood into the shapes that I've got on here. Let's do it. If I'd have built this back in 2020 when I made that workbench that's now out the front, I would have used this thing. So I was pretty obsessed with the old pocket hole jig when I first got started. It was everywhere in like beginner woodworking YouTube. So this was one of the first sort of workshop projects that I made. And every screw in this is pretty much done with a pocket hole jig. I was, obsessed with hiding screws for some reason. Like I just hated the idea of a screw head being shown. I even used to use them in my actual furniture making. So I made a desk like really early days for myself, and there's pocket holes all throughout that. So the only time I use them now is in a joint like this. So this bottom panel, for instance, I can screw up from the bottom, I can screw down from the top, but then this panel here, I can screw down from the top, but I can't screw on from the bottom because this one's in the way. So this is the only time I would use pocket holes now. And I hardly see them used anywhere else anymore. And I don't know if that's because I'm looking at different stuff on YouTube or whatever, but I barely ever see people using them, and I wonder if it's because it's so time consuming in the setup, the drilling of everything, and then even when you go to attach it, like attaching this, you have to clamp it all down really tightly because otherwise it'll like pull it in a diagonal direction out of alignment. So if you set it up on, you know, a grey lead line or whatever that you've marked there, and you just screw without clamping it down, it's going to pull that and slide that board like slightly out of alignment. Which, you know, isn't ideal. Anyway, we'll get back to it. I only did this little segment because a song ended, so I thought I'll talk for a little bit and then we can start a new song. So here's the new song. so we've stuffed up here. We've made this 1800 long, this workbench, whereas the one that it's matching up to is only 1795. I didn't measure it. I just thought from memory that it was 1800 and I just didn't even consider measuring it. So what we're gonna have to do is unscrew all these and then trim off 5mm off the horizontals, screw it back on, and we're good to go. So I just went to the post office to pick up my stuff and these were lying there. I thought these were my heavy duty slides, but they're not. They are Wayne's. So sorry, Wayne. I'll drop these back to you. Even as I was walking out, she was like, "Are you sure that's your order?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's my order." And I just didn't even look at the name. I just walked out because it was like I had 2 heavy duty drawer slides and I assumed that was them, but they were in this box. Whoopsies. So for the bottom 2 compartments, I've gone heavy duty drawer slides, and that's obviously because of the weight of the planer and the jointer. I need something that's a bit more solid, you know, a bit more rigid. So we're going with that. And then for the top, we're gonna go these undermount drawer slides. So these are by far my favorite drawer slides that I've come across. They are from Dorset, Australia. These guys here, they're about 25 bucks a pop, which is really reasonably priced for undermount drawer slides, and I reckon they work great. They work better than just your regular side mount drawer slides like these, because you just don't get any of the gunk and stuff in them, so they last longer. And then if you go there and get those from Dorset, this sounds like a sponsor, it's not. It should be one day. If you go to Dorset, get these, they're like upgraded clips for the bottom of the drawer boxes. So they've got like a steel plate, whereas the other ones are kind of plastic and like break and stuff like that, so they're not that great. So upgrade to these, they're adjustable too, and they're only like $2 for a set. So between the 2 of them, you're spending about 30 bucks on drawer slides, which I think's really good value. So without further ado, let's actually get into installing them. So we're going 3mm packer under the wheels because this is 597 tall and the base cabinet, the bottom, the one that that one is 600 tall. So 3mm packer on top of 597, you do the math. So that's what we're doing now. Now we're going to screw this new workbench to our old workbench with this screw. All right, let's put the top together for this one. All right, next up here, we're gonna use this as a template to drill the holes into this one because I can't be bothered laying them all out. And I did this one pretty accurately, so we'll use that. Oh, that's hot. Reason I touched that was because I think it's blunt. So we're gonna swap this out for this one. Hopefully much sharper. Way better. So I've got both tops attached here, but one issue we've run into is there's a bit of a lip all the way up until about there. That's when it gets flush. So there's a lip on that side, and then over here, there's a lip on this side. So there's only really a section of flushness from sort of here to here. So we're gonna use a templating bit in our router, and we're just gonna set the depth to where it's flush and then remove material from where it's not. All right, that's my flushness test. Cool. So as long as nothing grabs on it, we're good to go. All right, on to the drawer boxes. So I'm just adding some double-sided tape to these 5mm packers, and then I'll double-sided tape them to the bottom of this drawer in front of me, and then that way it'll sit at 5mm off the bottom of the cabinet. And then once I install the drawer, then I can just take the packers off. Tell you what, I've gotten pretty lucky with these. There might be 5mm breathing room here. And I had to redo this one, I didn't show you on camera. I think that's actually touching. I think that's actually touching it. So we're snug. We're a snug fit in the old workbench. All right, onto these ones. So if you're wondering why I got a bunch of holes in the top of my workbench, which I would have been wondering if I was first starting out woodworking and watching a workbench tutorial video, this is why. So it's really good for clamping pieces down to the workbench and then keeping those clamp heads out the way, which means when I'm doing something like this, it means I don't have to move the clamp heads at all. Whereas with my old workbench, I would have had to clamp here and also here with spring clamps like this, and they get in the way obviously when you're trying to route something. So it means that these clamps can stay out of the way of what I'm trying to do. It also means that if I wanted it to be clamped in the middle of my workbench, like say I'm carving something on this, or I need to, route a channel in here, I'm able to do that. If I wanted to clamp a straight edge to it, I can also do that. And my number one favorite thing is if I'm clamping these two blocks together and I'm putting pressure on the outside here, often these blocks want to bow like that. So then you have to get like pieces of timber, clamp them across the top to keep it nice and flat so that it doesn't bow. Whereas with this bench here, if I've glued these together and I put a bunch of clamping pressure on them and they've bowed, I can then clamp these down to them. I can adjust the pressure as well. So if there's only a small bow in it, I only have to put one sort of click of pressure. But if there's a big bow, then I can put more pressure until it's nice and flat. So that's my favorite thing about this workbench. Now, the only downfall is these clamps are about 50 bucks each. So, if you need 10 of them or whatever, you're up to 500 bucks already just to clamp down a couple of pieces of timber to your wood. So that's the only downfall. But aside from that, this bench is unreal. All right, so workbench is complete. We've got our jointer storage, which is huge because that thing's been just floating around aimlessly for the last 2 years. We got our planer storage there, which I've lifted it out. It actually hasn't made a difference. It still hurts your back. And then we've got our most used tools here. So we've got hand tools, more hand tools, and our measuring tools in here. And best of all, it's huge, so we've got plenty of workbench space. I hope it's not too big and it annoys me, but so far it's been pretty good. So because we're in the mood of upgrading things, we're in Clamp Corner and this thing needs an upgrade. So this one's great, it's on wheels. This one, not on wheels, not great. So we're gonna put it on wheels. So because we're gonna put the bandsaw on wheels, we'll also put this on wheels as well. Give it a nice little friend. So the reason we're gonna do that is because the foot of this actually sticks out past the fence of the miter saw, which means it gets in the way when I'm trying to cut some stuff. So I've had to sit it up on this box so that the footprint of it doesn't stick out too far. And then that'll free up some space on this mess of a bench at the moment to do something. I don't know what, but we'll do something with it. All right, so here's our wheels for the bandsaw and the sander. I made this off camera. It's so much faster doing this off camera. We just got 3 drawers, nothing in them as of yet, but it just gives me more storage space for when I need it, which inevitably will happen. But yeah, let's install the sander and the bandsaw. So I got a slight problem here. The brake on the sander is in the way of the table for the bandsaw. So we're just gonna have to cut a couple of pieces of plywood to stick under here to raise this up so it clears that. Now our last little upgrade is this area here, which has just become 12mm plywood storage for some reason. And what I have lying around is a bunch of random Festool boxes that don't actually have a place to live, like down here and over here. And you'd be surprised, but it actually deters me from using those tools at times because of where they are located and that they're not just at an arm's reach. So we're gonna clean this out, cut down some strips of plywood, and then nail them to the back of this section. And then that way we have something that we can sort of sit the boxes on so that they are tilted slightly, so it's just easier for me to grab the tool out. Plywood storage, we upgraded that as well. So we've gone brackets on the walls, 250mm wide plywood, and then we've sort of got long 1200 bits, medium bits and shorter bits here, and then some more square plywoods, that's down the bottom. So I'm pretty happy with this. This was looking like an absolute mess for a while there, so I'm happy that we got to that because it just makes the workshop feel a little cleaner. Then over here we've got our new creation, so we've got our bandsaw, our benchtop, sander, and then also our clamp storage here. So we've got a bit more room to move in this space, which is nice. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one.